Good morning everyone, we're going to be doing this project which is tying inks to charcoal drawing fundamentally. Now I've been using this reference picture by Jos van Uweke, amazing reference, royalty free image. Just check the link below if you want to have a go at home. Now what we're going to be using is some Peacock cartridge paper. I've got some 240 GSM smooth surfaced cartridge paper so that you can take a bit of a battering from the inks. You could use 300 GSM watercolour paper if you wanted to. Try and go for a smooth surface so you're going to really be battling it with the drawing stage of the project. Once you've got your papers ready, then you're going to be looking at moving on to inks to start off with. I have got a few different coloured inks. You want to choose inks that are suitable for the subject. So you can see here I've gone for blues and greens. I've got a bit of metallic that I've thrown in there because it's a peacock. So I have a pearlescent waterfall green. I have this is a calligraphy blue fountain pen dip ink, which is really nice and vibrant, and then I also have a marine blue as well that I've used. With that you're going to want a palette knife, a water spray bottle. I've got a card that I also like using for different ink effects. Obviously a little bottle for some clean water because you're going to be washing out your brushes with it. Then once you've done your ink work, you may want to use a hairdryer to speed it up and dry that off quickly, or go off and have a bit of a break. Then you're going to come back and you're going to be doing charcoal drawing. So I've got a charcoal pencil and I've got some charcoal sticks because charcoal sticks will let me go a little bit darker. I've got a putty rubber, which is really important, and I've got a traditional rubber which will take off anything that the putty rubber doesn't. I also have a brush that I was using for a little bit of blending. You might want some tissue for mopping up the ink in that first stage, or to blend out some colours if you want to. And you're going to need some white for a highlight. So I've got a white pastel pencil and also a white pastel to do my tonal work. So I guess what we need to do is start the project. Let's get on with it. So, first rule of inks, if you apply a wet ink onto a dry piece of paper, it will stain it instantaneously. The colour will be quite intense as well. You won't be able to lift it or move it. If you want to be able to move the inks, then you need to draw the inks into a wet surface. That's why I've got the spray bottle, or I've got the pot with a big brush that I'm going to be using today. Now I want to first of all take some clean water with my big brush, and I'm going to start by putting down a basic head structure just in water so it dampens the paper, and I'm getting a feel for the shape of the bird that I'm generating. This means that the ink will run nice and smoothly around the surface. Now I'm not too worried about these white areas. I'll probably want to dilute them down. When you're working inks, you usually want to work light to dark. My metallic green is my lightest shade, so I'm going to take some of that and I'm just going to drop some in. You could obviously use a brush to pick it up if you wanted to. And then I'm going to take my spray bottle and spray it around so it dilutes down my ink. I'm also going to get my brush and start manipulating it around the surface. Now I'm trying to hold my brush towards the end so that I've got these lovely loose marks. Now while I've got that wet, I'm going to take some of my blue and work some blue into it as well. Just as if I can get some blue out. There you go. Now because the ink's going straight into a wet surface, can you see those bleeds? If you wanted to dilute it down, or even you can see with the spray bottle, if I spray at a slight angle, it gets the blue to go further away and outside. I'm just going to brush some of that down and work that in and let it flow. And if it goes beyond, like I said, don't worry if it all goes beyond, it's no problem. You could, if you wanted to, make it go beyond. You know, you can tilt your board and create runs. It's completely up to you. how far out you want to take this. I've got some darker ink. Now with my darker ink, I'm going to just get some on the end of my toothbrush, like so, and flick it, so I get some really funky effects, like that. It's a bit messy and you'll end up with blue fingers, but you know, it's all the fun of it. Now I'm going to get my palette knife and work into that, and you can create any marks you want. You can cut in, you can smooth out, you can move it around. It's completely up to you. It's about having fun and making this a little bit more lively with the type of mark making that you can generate. You can do the same with a card. So sometimes people like to get a card and manipulate the surface. If you wanted to, you could put other colours in. So you might say, now I want a little bit more of that green. Just in there like so. And you know, if it's not spreading so well, like that one isn't, it's a little bit thick with the metallic-y, take a brush and pull it out, just like so, and play around with it. If you find that it's going too strong, so you can see that you've got this white of the eye, you can take your tissue and take some of that out. And you might find with the tissue, if you scrunch it up, you get different textural effects as well that you quite like. Or you might like it so it's lightened up. Now I've got some effect going onto the beak. Let's push that out a little bit more for our beak area. Try not to use too many colours or you'll find that you'll get a little bit mucky. And I've just put that down there, and then I'm going to work that in my card. So I get lots of fun textures. I'm going to work around, and I quite like that. I think I'll build some more up on the head as well. Just do a little bit at a time, because sometimes the ink can go further than you expect it to go. You can also, like I said, tilt the board. Don't worry about keeping things in the place they need to be. Just have fun with a rough splattering of colour where you want it to go. Okay, so let's get a little bit more toothbrush tone. Ooh, that came off a little bit harder than I expected. Doesn't matter. I've now splattered all my reference image, which is typical for me. I like this dark, so I'm just going to put in a little bit more over here. Let it rerun a little bit. Okay, and put in a little bit dark up here. Now I'm using acrylic inks, so they're a little bit stronger than if you were using non-acrylic inks. You might find they're a bit more translucent. Try a few and see which ones you like. Really, that's the trick. I'm just grabbing different ones. Oops. And getting some shades in there, a little bit more than I anticipated going down that way. Keep your eye on the reference picture though, because you do want roughly that reference picture to be correct. So that looks pretty good for me. Quite lively and fun. Now I'm going to let this dry, so you could give it a blast with a hairdryer if you wanted to, and come back to it and start building up where I want to build up the details ultimately. I might just take out a little bit around there. Right. I want some bits around here as well. Okay, so I'm going to allow it to dry. Right, I'm going to allow that to dry now. I've just put down some fun, quirky background shades and patterns, background colours and patterns, and then I'll come back and work up a really nice, accurate drawing. I'll see you in a minute. Bye everyone! Right, so we've got our background sorted. It's now dried out, okay, and I can start going in with my charcoal and basically fine-tuning the detail so that I can get a nice accurate drawing of my peacock coming through. Just realised I ended up with a bit of ink on top of my pencil, so I'm wiping that down. Start off with the pencils. Remember that the charcoal sticks are going to go for the really strong dark areas. First of all, you need to get a basic construction drawing. Now let's have a look at this head, okay, before we do it, just like we normally do with things. So I take this head, and first of all, you kind of see that triangle shape. And you could kind of arch it over the top if you want it, like that. Okay, then we've got our beak, which is going to be kind of triangle on there. And then we get this other triangle sitting over here, don't we? So fundamentally we've got 3 triangles that we're looking at sketching in here. So let's get that head in and start dotting it in. So I'm holding the pencil, I'm looking at that angle in comparison to that angle, and I need to be a little bit more upright. And then let's get that head in here and get that arch coming in there. Now we don't want this too big because remember we've got enough room to put this beak on. Let's get that in. And remember that the thing about charcoal pencils is that we can rub it out if it's too much. So it's no biggie if you've got a few lines. You can see how sketchy I am in here. So I'm going to whack in this beak around here roughly, so I know that I can fit in onto my piece of paper. I've got my body, which is going to come down here. And there you go, I've got my basic construction, haven't I? Now let's look at putting the eye in. So I'm kind of running a line down there to give me an idea of the angle. It's going to be quite central. Okay, and then we can start building up the detail really. After we got that, let's refine the head shape a little bit more. Comes in down here, comes arcing over, and I'm looking at this point here in relationship. Can you see how if I had an alignment line going straight through the piece of paper, the eye would be sitting beneath it? Now at the moment my eye is too high, because if I put a line there, that means that that eye should be dropping down here. I'm going to make that a little bit lower, okay, and bring that head up. Now the white patterns can be quite handy because it can just show you to make sure that you've got again enough space around things. So let's just draft that in with the eye, and then that means we're going to have to bring the neck back a little bit more, and then that's when we get the arc over the beak, which is kind of coming down here. Now at this stage I'm going to slide my hand down the pencil and start doing much more of an accurate drawing. So let's get this in here, because obviously I'm going to end up leaning on things as I'm a right-handed drawer. Like so. under there. That's coming up into the beak. That beak arching out like that. Now I'm looking at that beak relationship. Kind of gives me roughly the positioning of the eye. That's going to be arching around here, and then we've got top of the beak coming up here. Now we got a triangle in here because you can see the hole breathing around there, and that beak's going to be coming back. Then we've got the head shape that we need to start doing. Now a lot of people will round this off. It's not perfectly round. Usually you get a little bit more of an angle coming up from where the beak is, and then it curves off and flattens down to the back of the brain, the skull shape, and then that'll come down like so. And then we can start putting that eye in, just around that kind of size and location. Let's get that arc of white pattern, which is coming down into the beak from the eye. Going over the top, and we've got again this white pattern which is coming arcing around the eye and up diagonally. We've then got some dark pattern, because I can see this dark pattern here for the feathers going down to the neck. You can start seeing the bird shape coming out already. Now if you wanted to, you could get a little bit of white and work up some white on this section if you want. It's completely up to you. Sometimes people will use chalk. Now I'm going to just basically start drawing in the detail. I'm bringing this together. Might find that you need a putty rubber. I got putty rubber just to take off any of your drafting lines or errors. Now another thing that can also be handy is that you take a beak length, so you can see how long that beak is in relationship to the head. So you can see one beak length, and you should be going beyond the eye. I reckon my beak is a little bit too small, so I'm going to make that a bit bigger, because from here to here, that beak where I was initially should be coming out over here. may feel that you need to add in a little bit of white pastel pencil because it can get very dark and a bit misty with what you've been working up. It'll just give you a little bit of clarity with the highlights and any strong whites that you want to work up. You could always mix it with a little bit of the black just to get various tones of grey if you want to as well. Right, so you've got like the main bird roughly done there. Let's put in the feathers on the head. Right, so I've got a bit of charcoal and I can just boost my darks with my charcoal stick. I want to try and keep it still sketchy, the drawing, so it's got a loose, spontaneous feeling, and it's still building up all the different types of mark making to get the idea of textures into the bird's kind of shape. Right, so let's exaggerate those whites a little bit more and you'll find that a stick will give you that stronger white finish compared to the pencil. Right, and you should end up with something that looks like that. So we've got our peacock, which had our background of inks, and then we've built up a charcoal drawing and just finished it off with some stronger highlights using a white pastel pencil and a white stick of chalk. I hope you enjoyed it and that you go out and have some fun. Try and create your own animals in this style. Mix up some colours, do something very different. Think about how you're applying them onto the paper and don't be worried to take loads of risks. You know, that's how you're going to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It's just a drawing at the end of the day. It's nothing to be worried about. That's how you learn with art. Right. I'll see you next week, everyone. Bye!